So you're telling me I can't give up giving my taxes for Lent?
No, Andrew, you cannot.
Okay, but the First Amendment says that I have the freedom of religion. If I say my religion includes not paying taxes, I feel like I'm within my rights. I'm just saying.
And the government has the freedom to lock you up. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Okay, I'm gonna find my tax fraud. I mean, my accountant. He'll figure this out.
Hello!
Hi, everyone. Welcome to What If We? Cheers. Josh has to drink coffee because he's at work.
This is coffee.
I don't know what's in that mug. Anyway, welcome to What If We, where today we ask the question, what if Josh smuggled whiskey into his coffee?
No, it's just coffee. I did do that one time. Did I ever tell you this story? Not at here, and not at any job I had as an adult. But when I worked at Switchboard, one day someone called me.
You were 20 years old when you worked at Switchboard, but okay.
What?
You were like 21 when you worked at Switchboard.
Yeah, it wasn't an adult job.
Oh, you were like a fake adult at the time.
Yeah, so I got called in to go and help because someone didn't show up, but they didn't know how to do something. This was one of the mornings where we were barbecuing. I had already put Bailey's into my coffee.
Oh, okay. Bailey's doesn't count. Bailey's is just creamer.
Andrew, it was more Bailey's than it was coffee.
I know, but still. All right, we should probably get on with what we actually meant to talk about today. So,
yes. Speaking of Bailey's and Irish things, and what's more Irish than being Catholic, and what's more Catholic than
sinning, guilt,
Lent.
Yes. So this episode will be coming out Friday, the first Friday of Lent. And you know what that means? Fish fries.
Fish fries. Actually, I'm kind of leaning towards the muskrat cook-off this year.
Do you get muskrat exemptions up in Lansing?
I don't know, but I might drive to Detroit just for it one day.
Yeah, so it is Lent. It's time for suffering, if you will, pain, even agony.
You know, take up your cross and follow me. If you went to mass this morning on the Thursday after Ash Wednesday, this is what Jesus tells us to do.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome
to the suffering episode.
Okay, real quick. I'm assuming you went to mass yesterday because of Ash Wednesday.
I went to Ash service. We had like the readings, but we didn't have I was subbing yesterday. We only had.
And they didn't do a mass for the students.
So they had service, they did the readings. Deacon might give a homily, which I'm going to talk about, and then they distributed ashes. But like that alone, with the amount of kids they had, that took an hour. So like that was. We had prayers.
Mass. Who cares?
Yeah. So we didn't have. We didn't have communion. Also, Father David wasn't there. He was doing something else. We have one priest, although I do actually. Side note, update on Father Mike. He might be coming back earlier than expected. Well, he's supposed to come back in Thanksgiving. He's a cousin. He's like, instead of trying to go through Nigeria, he's a cousin in Canada. So he's trying to get like going through the Canadian embassy rather than the Nigerian embassy, because apparently he can do that. And like, what took him 3 weeks to do through Nigeria, he got within 30 seconds at Canada. He has an expedited appointment, so prayers up for Father Mike that he will be able to come back to us. We should know like late next week if he's able to come back, which would be huge for us.
I'm actually going to save this for later, but the opening prayer for Mass yesterday, this was hype.
So let's talk about what Lent is for our non-Catholic viewers. I don't know if we have any of those because everyone that we know, all 5 of our viewers are related to us in some way or are good friends with us.
Yeah, but the ones that are related to you might not be Catholic.
That is a fair point. But yeah,
Well, okay. First off, let's backtrack. We kind of just jumped into it. This is our podcast. What if we, a subsidiary of our fledgling media company, Duke and Altoon Media Co.
I am
We
Andrew, and
are.
that is Josh.
Yep. Silencing my cell phone because Franciscan decided to text me.
They did the same thing to
1
me.
second. Just now?
Like 5 minutes ago.
Oh yeah.
Wishing us a happy Lent. So this is What If We, the podcast where we ask the question, what if we? And today's episode...
Normally we do something like going on an adventure or trying to do more of those kind of things. Where we do something together, you might have seen like our Spicy Twos episode. Spicy Twos followed up by Spicy Poos.
And normally we try to do like the first episode of the month being a little bit more of us doing something, but we thought it would be it's too good of an opportunity to pass up to do a Lent episode. So we're doing a little bit of Ash Wednesday, Lent, what that means for us, and what that especially because I think Lent is really important to us, not just as Catholics, but like it very much represents this podcast, because we always have a how are we going deeper, how are we trying to improve ourselves, and that's really in the spirit of Lent. So let's talk about what Lent is.
Yeah.
I'll let the theology major take it from here.
Lent is a period of time over the course of 40 days. Now, it's important to say 40 days because Holy Week is not actually a part of Lent.
Correct.
You did not know this. Holy Week is its own separate season. And so actually the Sundays do count for the 40 days of Lent. But because all Sundays are a solemnity and are a day of feasting, you should lessen your fasting on that day. Which is why some people are like, oh, Sundays don't count. They count.
People go back and forth on it. It's one of my favorite things. Like Matthew he called it the loophole when we were kids, and now he still abides by it, like as a priest. But like people argue with me all the time, like, guys, as long as what you're fasting from is not a sin, you can indulge a little bit on Sunday.
Well, right. I mean, like, there's so much to it, right? But so Lent is this 40-day period where we are striving to prepare the way for the Lord, right? In Advent, we prepare the way for the Lord. We prepare specifically for the incarnation, right?
Mm-hmm.
This first mystery of Christ's life. And now we prepare for the final mysteries of Christ's life here on earth through a 40-day preparation, right? And so, right, you might equate this to like the Catholic version of spring cleaning. It goes much deeper than that. Yesterday, for example, at the opening prayers for Mass, it literally says, and we'll maybe drop this somewhere in the chat or something.
I'll try to put it somewhere.
But it says, "Grant, O Lord, that we may begin with holy fasting this campaign of Christian service, so that as we take up battle against spiritual evils, we may be armed with weapons of self-restraint. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of God, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God forever and ever. Amen." And I just loved that prayer yesterday for Mass.
You loved it so much you moved your camera.
I did. But that prayer was just great because it's just like, we take up battle against spiritual evil, so we be armed with weapons of self-restraint. Right? And when people think about Lent, they get this image of like Christ in the desert doing battle with the devil, right? And one of the biggest lies I think that Christianity has faced over the last 100 years is this idea that the devil isn't real, or he's just like some ethereal figure.
Or it's very passive.
Yeah, and it's like, I say this phrase a couple times a week. I'm not looking for the devil around the corner. But I am looking for the devil under the bedsheet.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
Because he is there. I'm not looking for him in everything. But like if I ignore him, right? Well, then it's like St. Peter says in his letter. He says, the devil is prowling like a roaring lion, seeking to devour his souls. Resist him. Right? If you just ignore the devil, you say, oh, well, the devil doesn't exist. right? How quickly it is to just slip into sin and just ignore sin, ignore the fact that we live in a fallen world. So Lent is this great time to be reminded of like Christ doing battle in the desert, like to prepare himself for his public ministry. It's also this great time to kind of think about where we are in relation to our walk with the Lord, right? Are we, I sometimes use this example with the college students. If we're a part of the flock, right? If we're part of the 99, where are you? Right? Are you out way in the desert away from Christ? Are you on the edge of the flock, right? Are you in the middle of the flock? What's interesting is when I ask students these questions, they're like, oh, well, I'm in the edge of the flock because I don't feel like I'm apart from Christ, but I'm not in the middle. And I was like, what's funny is the sheep who are at the edge of the flock are the closest ones to the shepherd.
It's true. The ones in the middle are the safest, but the ones at the edges are the ones who are closest.
Exactly. Why? Because those are the ones that the shepherd calls to himself. He keeps them close.
Yeah. They're the troublemakers.
And so it's like this great, yeah, right. We're the ones that run off. And so it's this great reminder, though, of like, oh, where am I at with the Lord, right? And what are things that draw me away from the shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it media? Is it food? Is it, certain flesh desires? Isn't it this, that, or whatever, right? What are these things that are drawing me away from the Lord? And then to refocus, right? If we even go into like Ash Wednesday readings, right? How do I refocus? Well, like the spirit of like fasting and prayer and almsgiving, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can I fast from those things that draw me away from the Lord, right? To give myself more space. Right? This is why, like, there's this whole big controversy right now. Cardinal Dolan, and I'm not trying to get involved in church
I'm going to
politics.
pretend that I know all this that's going on, so keep going.
Right. So yeah, Cardinal Dolan, who is this Catholic prelate, I think in Chicago still. He said, "Oh, Lent is like the Catholic version of Ramadan," and it's like,
If anything, Ramadan's the whatever version of Lent.
well, but it's still like.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's like we shouldn't equate the two because of what it means.
Well, but there's a lot of good that we can also learn from, in rediscovering, like, why do we fast and how does this fit in with the worldview, right? We fast for a variety of reasons. We fast so we can make more room for God, like the Muslims hold to this, the Jews hold to this, right? Other monotheistic religions hold to this. Why else do we fast? Well, we fast so that way we can hear more readily. We're suddenly not listening to the voice of our stomachs, we're listening to the voice of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
We fast so that way we can properly order what creation was made for, right? And so like there's this line in scripture, it's like, and they made their God their stomachs.
Interesting.
And it's like, ooh, yeah. And so there's a whole thing in that. Maybe seeing a quickfire catechesis video coming out about that, a 3-minute video on fasting that I will gladly take on and do.
Which, if you haven't checked us out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, we have added Quickfire Catechesis to a little playlist. So 3-minute theology for you.
I think I will be making a lot of those videos.
Yeah,
I will just start cranking them out.
Yeah, I'm planning on that. I've got some more. Once things settle down here on the OCIA front, I do plan on adding more. Like this week has just been so crazy for it. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I feel like that's something we can make very quickly. Like
that's the idea before behind short form content. Man, I want to get back to something that you said real quick. You talked about how like we're adding, like how we're trying to, like by removing things, we're adding more time for God. And this is something that I was explaining. More space, more time for God. Because this is something I was explaining to the high school OCIA kids. Because I asked them, hey, one of the things we want to do, we want to get Lent is like the big moment for them. Like it's the home stretch. Like this is the time to really double down, like get ready for the Easter Vigil. And I asked them what they were doing. And one was like, I'm giving up saying the Lord's name in vain. I'm like, great, you should do that just in general. So like, this is a great start. One was I'm giving up fast food. I was like, okay, that could be really tough for people. I don't know if I could do it in that way. And one was like, I'm giving up sweets. Like, okay, I poked just a little bit. What about sweets makes it difficult for you? Because Deacon Mike brought this up in this homily, and again, I'll be referencing this several times throughout the video. It's like fasting is not just I'm giving up Diet Coke, or I'm giving up my coffee in the morning. And I asked her, she said, well, I have a lot, like I spend a lot of time snacking and eating these sweets and these things, and I know it's not good for me, and I'm trying to use this as an opportunity to grow in that discipline. And I said that, talking about that habitual,
Yeah.
that habit that we're trying to create, we're trying to break a
Well, and
bad habit and enforce a good new habit through grace that we're getting during Lent.
and to go back to that opening prayer from Ash Wednesday, right? Be armed with weapons of self-restraint, right? It's like, okay, this seems so minor, but even today, I was sitting there. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm getting notifications at the wazoo. I don't know if you can hear them.
No, I can't. Thank goodness.
Um, but even today, like I'm at the office by myself, and I'm like, oh, there's some Tootsie Rolls in this thing right outside my door, and I'm like, I don't need them. Just offer a quick prayer, like, Lord, like, in me saying no to this, help me to grow in virtue, right?
Hmm.
You know, how can I, exercise self-restraint, right? It's a weapon. It needs to be utilized and used. You have to train it
Yeah.
in small ways before you can say. You have to say no in the small ways so you can say no in the big ways, right?
Yeah, and with
And so,
that,
like,
like we talked about, like progress, not perfection. That's like the big theme for the school this year. I think it's probably the theme every year for Lent. But like some kids went up to Miriam on Ash Wednesday, and they're like, "Hey, I broke my Lent promise. Like, what do I do now?" She's like, "You just keep trying." They're like, she's like, "What do you mean?" Like, well, I gave up swearing, and I swore at Jimmy, which I was like, first of all, understandable. It's Jimmy, but but it's like, no, it's about, all right, what happens when you fail? Like when people fail their New Year's resolutions, they usually like, well, I failed, I tried, I got a weekend, whatever. But here it's like you're saying, like we are not perfect, we are never gonna be perfect, but this is an opportunity for us to grow and to sharpen that weapon and get closer and closer with it. So it's like, hey, if I was telling the girls, like, hey, if you do swear, if you forget and you do get junk food, don't beat yourself up over it and like say, well, I've screwed up, I can't get past it. It's like, all right, no, use it. Okay, offer it up, say a prayer like, Lord, I'm sorry I messed up. I wasn't able to adhere to my promise to you. Help me to be better next time. And just keep focusing on that. Having that, again, you're trying to build that discipline that comes with it, and it becomes a habit. And we get a lot of grace during
yeah.
that, I feel like, for those kind of things.
Well, and to push back a little bit on what you said, um, we are actually striving for perfection, but if we achieve it or not is not wholly dependent on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We cannot be perfect on our own. If we could, then we wouldn't have needed a savior. But we did have a savior who modeled for us what perfection can be, and if we choose to take up our cross and follow him, we can be perfect like him.
Fair.
Uh, so perfection is possible. That's another lie that Christianity has been like eating into of like you can't be perfect. It's like no, you can, right? Even in the documents of the church, it talks about like this aspect of journeying towards perfection, right, as being the final stage of what an individual goes through in the process of faith and conversion, of like journeying toward perfection. Whether we are perfected on this side of heaven, on this side of life, or in the next side of life in purgatory, I don't know. But we're journeying towards that. And
Mm-hmm.
so every time we say no, it's another step on that journey towards perfection. So Lent is also this great time to perfect ourselves. But yeah, in fasting you have, you're exercising self-restraint so you can grow in perfection. You're making more space for God, you're making more time for God in your life. You're also, uh, trying to reorder your relationship with God's created goods, right?
Okay.
St. Ignatius of Loyola, Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, all things for the glory of God, right? Organize everything towards the glory of God in your life. So that's fasting, like prayer, right? Everyone's like, oh yeah, I got to increase my time in prayer. It's not just about increasing your time in prayer, it's about increasing your quality and depth of prayer, right? Um, you know, are you trying to spend more time in silent prayer, right? A lot of people will add like additional devotions, and that's great, right? But are you like in the fasting, are you making more time to like be silent and really listen for the voice of the Lord? You know, and things like that. Are you really taking time to like pray the words as you mean them?
Yeah.
You know,
And
you
with
can
that,
say,
I find that prayer is like fasting and almsgiving without prayer, it loses a lot of its punch. Like they have to inform each other. Like that's why we have the three of them. Like to just say
well,
I'm just giving up something because it's gonna it's gonna remove a barrier to God. Like that's great, but not doing it in like the mindset of prayerfully doing so. I feel like that, and same with almsgiving. Like it's about framing. And I think prayer is the reason. Like we talk, we say fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, or almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. Prayer is never like really first or last when we say it. It's sandwiched in the middle, and I think that's intentional. I think it's because it informs the other two to an
oh,
extent.
yeah. But also with that, um, there is just a sense of like with prayer, right? You're not adding more devotions. You're not just saying words. You are trying to go deeper and listen to what the Lord is asking you to do. And maybe your devotional life changes based on the season. Maybe you're going to spend more time meditating on the passion. Maybe you're going to go to mass one extra time this week. Maybe you're going to, read something or do something differently in your prayer life. But it's about the depth of prayer. And what it should be is, as you're establishing these prayer practices, you should be looking for something that you can take with you beyond the season of Lent.
Yeah, it's about growth at the end of the
Um,
day. Still, like we go into Easter, and there's ordinary time, which is again a season for us to like the fruits of our labor during Lent and Easter. Like it's supposed to show, like, all right, how have we changed? If that and
right.
that's something that I was talking to the kids about this last year. Said if at the end of Lent you have not changed in any meaningful way, doesn't have to be not doesn't have to be a big way, but it has to be a meaningful way. You didn't do your Lent right.
Oh, and just, that's okay. I think for me, for many years, I didn't experience this profound change during Lent because I really didn't give myself time to go into the process.
Or we did the
Um,
like when when I was a kid, I was very specific with what I gave up. Like, all right, I'm giving up Fire Emblem. Like, I wasn't giving up all video games, just giving up the one that I played the most. Um, or like I gave up like the problem with me for fasting as like a way of giving like for Lent, it doesn't work very well because I'm one really good at finding replacements for things, or I'm just forgetful. Like typically, anytime I've broken my fast for Lent, it's not because I broke down. I just forgot to I gave I'd be like, all right, I'm giving up pop for Lent because I was drinking a lot of pop like 2 years ago. Actually, I gave up everything but water. That's what I gave up like a year or two ago. I gave up everything but water. And then I went to McDonald's with my wife, and I got a Coke because McDonald's Coke is one of the things that lets us know God loves us. And I drank it. And I was like, oh, crap. And it wasn't like I broke. It just did not cross my mind. Oh yeah, because I go to McDonald's, I get a Coke. That's just like, A to B. So fasting for me is really difficult, not because it's so hard. It's like usually I can find a replacement easily. Like my parents had a hard time punishing me when I was a kid because anytime they like, I'm gonna take something away, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do something else instead. It doesn't really affect me. And like eventually got to like they're like, we're taking away reading from you. That was the big punishment because then I just do that.
yeah, I think for me, one of the things I've contemplated, and you've heard me talk about this, is I'm contemplating getting a flip phone at some point for the seasons during Lent. If at the very least, keeping something like an iPhone to have to navigate, maybe
Yeah,
for Google Maps.
but like your
But then
primary
it's
form of communication is that flip phone.
exactly. And as much as that would irk some people, right? It's like, oh, I'm not going to be playing video games then, because all of my gaming is done on a mobile device at this point.
Mm-hmm. For now,
Um, I I go back and forth with wanting to play video games.
we'll get you onto a
Anyway,
PC. Anyway, yeah,
anyway, but yeah, no, it's also funny that you mentioned like prayer, fasting, almsgiving. Almsgiving being And I always think it's funny. I had to explain this to a group of college students the other day. Almsgiving does not mean giving more money to the church. That's actually not what almsgiving is in the tradition of Scripture.
Okay. Elaborate then for those of us who don't know.
So giving to the Lord was actually called tithing.
Yes.
And in the Jewish era, that was a minimum 10% of your income.
Mm-hmm.
And the church no longer has that. The church says you should give out of your abundance, which for each person looks differently. But almsgiving was always tied in Jewish culture and early Christian culture to giving specifically to the poor.
Okay. So what would that look like now, I guess? Like, is it just like, hey, I want to write, you want like, oh, it's Lent, I got to write a check to my favorite charity. What would you recommend for someone who's trying to look into like that?
Living out almsgiving, I would have a personal stake in the game, right? I have to look the person in the eye that I'm serving.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have many thoughts about this. I could do a whole thing on why giving to charitable donations is not what Christ asks of you when he says to be charitable and loving towards the poor.
That's fair.
Christ wants you to encounter the poor person. He wants you to encounter these people because encountering them, you have to swallow your pride, right? You hear about the stories of the saints, and I think like St. Francis and some of these others who were repulsed by the poor. And out of their repulsion, and out of our repulsion, we're just like, oh, well, to ease my conscience, I will go and give to a charity.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than having to, I'm going to sit down with this individual, have an extra sandwich, or I don't need this full big lunch. I can give them part of my lunch, or
I'm gonna work like even working at like at a soup kitchen or something like that, where you're interacting with them directly, like you're seeing the face of them. Yeah, that's one of the things that I was trying to explain to some Miriams, because this was a couple months ago. We were talking about social justice, and one of the things I said was stop calling them homeless people. It is a person who is experiencing homelessness. Catherine actually taught me that first.
Interesting.
Because
actually, that's still not perfectly correct, but okay.
But the way you frame it like that is because if it's a homeless person, you're equating the person with their condition.
Yes.
And it's like, no, it's a person who's experiencing this condition. Like, right. And like, so no, and I was trying to explain that to some of the kids, and they're like, but they're homeless people. I'm like, yes, they're a person experiencing homelessness, but it's the way that we order it, because when we just generalize them as, oh, homeless people or whatever, we're losing the humanity of it. They become a group. We put them in a group. We make it nice and clean, and easy, like to digest. Oh, it's a homeless person, whatever. No, it's a person who is made in the image and likeness of God, who is going through a rough time and does not have a home at this point.
Well, right, and I mean, and all that wrapped up in this, just okay, how do I view them as a person before anything else?
Exactly.
And part of that comes down to encountering them rather than just like, I'm going to throw money at this charity. And I hate anytime somebody goes, I don't do this thing because it makes me feel awkward. That's probably a good thing.
If it makes you feel awkward, there's a decent chance you're being called to try it.
Right. And
in the proper context, framing that real quick, asterisk right there.
right. So long as it's not a sin.
Yeah. But yeah, we're not made for comfort. We're made for greatness.
This makes me feel uncomfortable, right? When people are like, I don't want to confront this person, it makes me feel uncomfortable. I was like, why does it make you feel uncomfortable? Oh, because like, what if they get mad at me? I was like, probably still need to do it. Well, I don't want to go and serve these homeless people because it makes me feel bad. Probably should go do it, right?
Yeah. Again, we're called to go past our comfort zone, because that is where we will encounter Christ in the world.
Well, right, and part of it is like, if you go through something uncomfortable, there is an area of growth, right? But
Yep.
all this to be said, right? I loved how you started talking about the connection between prayer, fasting, almsgiving. I once heard somebody say like fasting without prayer is dieting.
That's true. And dieting is stupid.
Right.
In the tradition, like in our modern sense, dieting is stupid. But I could do a 30-minute video on that. Not in a catechesis video at all. Just like, regardless. Yes, but yeah, we need prayer to inform the things that we do.
Oh yeah, almsgiving without prayer is just being a philanthropist.
I mean, I'd like to be Iron Man.
Nothing wrong with philanthropy. But what are the fruits?
It cheapens the experience for everyone involved.
Prayer without fasting, as Jesus says, some demons can only be exorcised through prayer and fasting. Prayer without fasting is like trying to fight the devil with one hand behind your back. You can't do it.
Yeah,
this is why we need this whole spiritual toolbox, especially like when we're taking up arms to do battle against spiritual devils, spiritual evils.
Right? I love how much we focus on the number 3 as a church because it works so well. Like in everything that we do, everyone's like, Catholic accepts those numbers. I'm like, because we're not wrong about it. We need these, like, the reason that everything comes in, like, things are in 3s, because they build on each other. You can't have a stool with 2 legs.
No, but like this is the spiritual armor, the spiritual weapons which we need to prepare ourselves to do battle with the evils of the world, the flesh, and the devil.
Ephesians 6:10-17.
Yeah. But
the one verse that I know.
This is like the broadest view of Lent that we could give. I mean, we can go into more specifics. And just like over the last few years, there's been so many programs and like Lenten. How do you go deeper this Lent, right? Like I'm thinking like, oh, there's a Norbertine Abbey out of California, which is doing the Great Fast. And then there's Exodus 90 with their Exodus Lent programs. There's Fiat 40 for women.
There's the little black book that you get every Lent, or little blue book. I think it's a black book for Lent.
Yeah. Ascension Press has something. Word on Fire probably has something. Like every group has something. Like even our own parish, we developed our own little thing called the Desert Challenge, right?
Very nice.
Every parish has something. Like sticking with that hallmark of like prayer, fasting, almsgiving. Am I going to fast to make more room for the Lord and to temper my appetites? Am I going to pray to grow in intimacy with the Lord? And how am I going to give alms so I can be more charitable to my fellow man and view them as a person? Right? So these 3 hallmarks kind of serve as a foundation. And it all starts with Fat Tuesday.
I love me some Fat Tuesday.
A day of debauchery.
So I do want to like my little nerd tidbit here. Do you know how they determine the date for Easter?
It's based on the Jewish lunar calendar.
Yes, it's the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox is when we have Easter, and then they count back 40 days to give us Lent. So that way like Easter and Passover like there's a specific relationship that they have to have from the Christian perspective for it to like make sense.
From the Western Christian perspective.
Yes. Which is why Easter last year was super early, and this year it's like the latest it can possibly be.
But it's also the first year in a few years where we will be, the Eastern Christians and the Western Rite Christians will be celebrating for the first time Easter on the same weekend.
Ooh.
Like 20 or so years.
I'm gonna look that up real quick while you discuss your ideas, your thoughts on Fat Tuesday.
So Fat Tuesday, Punchki Day, Mardi Gras, Meat Fair, Carnival, perhaps one of the best days of the year for a fat kid. You get to indulge in debauchery, right? You get to fast before you feast, or you get to feast before you fast, right? And so like different cultural traditions have it. So, right, Polish have punchkis.
It's
You have the
it's not nearly as far back as that. The last one was 2017, 2014, 2011, and 2010. It actually happens much more often than we thought.
well, but still, that's still
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. The calendars are apart by
It
about
happens
13 days. But yeah, it does happen just because of random.
right. Anyways, so all of these cultures. The thing I love about Fat Tuesday is it is this opportunity in a way, to purge your kitchen.
We decided to cook an entire meal on our Fat Tuesday.
It's a great opportunity to purge your
Oh
kitchen.
no, it was Monday. We did it on Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
But all that to be said, right? I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, right? And I was explaining to the college students how in previous iterations of Western Rite Christianity, there was actually a pre-Lenten season.
Okay. I did not know this.
Yep, Septuagisma, which is 70 days before Easter,
Okay.
would be when you would eat all of the meat in your house. Sexmagisma is when you would eat all of the dairy products in your house.
That sounds weird. I don't like that word.
Sexagisma would be when you eat all the dairy products in your house.
Okay.
Quintagisma is when you would eat any of the other animal products in your house.
So 70, 60, 40 or 70, 60, 50?
50. And then you would start Ash Wednesday and you would basically be vegan for all of Ash Wednesday, for all of Lent.
Lord, thank you for not doing that to us, for allowing that to change.
I think it'd be cool to do it one year. You know, we'd have to build up to it over the course of several Lents.
Yes. I also would have to change my diet entirely.
Your wife would not be able to do fish.
That, but also just in general, like, Lent's hard on me because it's the only time I have to fast, and fasting is rough for someone who is underweight.
Yeah, I understand that. But actually I don't, but so Fat Tuesday is this great opportunity. You can eat punchkis, you can eat donuts, pies, cakes, right? This is a great day. Like, I was talking with my girlfriend last night, and she was like, "Oh yeah, on Tuesday night I went and got a tub of ice cream because I gave up ice cream for Lent." She ate like a tub of ice cream, not like a full tub, like one of the little Ben.
Yeah, she ate a, she's like, all right, this is my last one. I'm gonna enjoy it.
Right, and it's this great. Okay, right. How do I embrace the season? You know, the feast before the fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
My family never really did anything special for that Tuesday. That wasn't like a big thing.
We were always a punchki family. My dad would bring home punchkis from Meyer, or like sometimes his work would have them. Very rarely, he would get like some non-Meyer, like some bakery would have them, because Detroit has a pretty decent Polish population, which is expanded, so we can get some. I remember when we were in college, Ben would hook us up with some punchkis from his bakery in Butler Beaver.
Duquesne? No, Ben.
And he hooked us up.
I never got those punchkis. The first time I had a punchki was from John Veras. He walks into the suite. What? He walks into the suite. He's like, "It's punchki day." He's like,
and you're like, Are you speaking in tongues?
No, we don't. I was like, we don't have punchkis where I'm from.
Which is no, that makes sense. You're from Texas. A lot of Germans there.
Germans, we could have a thing against the Poles.
Anyway, but yeah, like for me this year, I don't think I did anything special other than having a punchki. Normally, I would eat more, but I had a really weird Tuesday.
Well, we also had the sausage and cheese pizza.
We did, we still ate, but like the past couple of years, I've been pretty good. Like, all right, I'm gonna fast tomorrow, which means I'm not gonna have like for Ash Wednesday, I had sunflower seeds until 7:00 at night. Like, I was like, I'm not gonna have 2 meals. I'm just gonna snack on sunflower seeds because I need something in my body, or I will pass out and get angry at people. It's like, I'm gonna eat sunflower seeds, so I'm still hungry the whole day, but like it's like satiating that tiny itch that my body requires. And then I had a salad for dinner.
Yeah, I had
So I was hungry.
I had no food until 3 o'clock, and then I ate 2 slices of bread and a little bag of Doritos, and then I went home. I had a ramen cup,
And I
had a
just
bowl of
looked at it.
cheesy rice.
I didn't actually eat. I just looked at it.
Had a ramen cup, a bowl of cheesy rice, 3 eggs, and half a carton of egg whites. I said, "This is my one big meal,"
Fair.
and it was still only 600 calories.
Not bad. And we should clarify for those of you who are like, that's not fasting. What is the accepted Catholic doctrine on fasting for the average person?
So the church teaches that for fasting, that there are only 2 mandatory days of fasting for all of Lent, throughout the whole calendar year. It is Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, and you are supposed to eat. You are allowed what is called 2 collations, is the canon law term. Collations meaning small meals that, when added together, are not equal to or greater than one big meal.
Usually it's
And so,
an apple and a cheese stick or something like it's very small.
yeah, and so some people are like, oh, that's not fasting, and it is very dependent, right? And so for me, come 3 o'clock, like, I'm a big dude, but I was like starting to feel the hunger pains. I was like, all right, Lord, I'm gonna continue to like fast. To have my 2 slices of bread and my bag of Doritos. I was like, okay, this needs to hold me over until I get home.
Yeah. And there's some people who like, I remember when we were in Austria and we were on our way back from, I think it was from Ireland, and I was like, look, we have 10 minutes for our train leaves. I'm going to get some McDonald's. Like, I'm literally going to get like, just like 4 large fries. It's the fastest thing that they can make for us. And McKay was like, I don't want any of them because if I have a little bit of food, I'm going to get really hungry.
Well,
yeah. And that's exactly what happened to me. So it's like sometimes just not eating is easier.
There is a scientific component to it, which I could talk about in the fasting episode. But the long and short of it is, there is a hunger hormone called ghrelin that is stimulated by the influx of carbs. And so when you eat carbs, your ghrelin spikes, your insulin spikes, and it makes you want to eat more food.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, if you are going to eat something while fasting, you should eat something in a high protein or high satiety, a potato.
Potatoes.
Eat something like a potato or something that has a lot of water in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it fills you up, right? Fruit is great. Potatoes that are not fried. Something white and fluffy.
Yeah.
Like a good starch, but like, so I watched a video earlier this week, like 6 different ways to do fasting this year, and one of the ways they recommended. And I'm trying a couple different things. I am trying to fast every Wednesday and Friday this Lent.
Mm-hmm. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. So what'll be nice is Fridays I have the fish fries to look forward to at my parish.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try to work a couple of those for the nights.
And on Wednesdays, I'm gonna try to do a bread and water fast until 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then have a meal. And so like I can eat nothing but bread until 6 p.m. And so if I feel myself getting, and you don't really want to eat that much bread. I don't know about you, but after like 2 slices of bread, I'm good.
I'm big into like saltines as like my fasting thing because like it's because bread just I feel bloated when I eat a lot of bread. So I'm like, if I have a couple of saltines, like that's like if I have to fast, that's usually my go-to. We just didn't have any saltines in the house. Like just something that I can, a couple of snacks on. The sunflower seeds worked for me, like because again, I need protein throughout the day, or I get very irritable. And sunflower seeds, probably just that little bit. But the big thing is they like trick my body, like, oh, you're chewing, you're having a lot of food. I'm really not. I still felt the hunger pains, but it was just low enough where I was like, I'm tolerable around people.
Well, and that's why, like, especially like the night before you start fasting, you should have a big meal.
Mm-hmm.
You're not probably going to feel full at the start of the day because your body processes a lot of the food at night. But you are going to have those calories to get you through, and this is why like black coffee is great, tea, sugar-free gum,
Hmm.
water. But yeah, so Ash Wednesday, it's great. I love it.
I love Ash Wednesday, especially because like even the non-Catholic kids can receive ashes, and they're excited about it because they go up for communion, they do this, or they just don't go up at all. But almost every kid at this high school got ashes. Like I think I saw 10 kids the whole day out of a school of 300 who didn't get ashes. And it's just like, yeah, it makes them feel like they're part of something bigger. Even if they don't get the whole thing, even if they're not like fully on board with it, they're like, something's happening here. I'm gonna roll with it and see what happens.
Well, right. And so Ash Wednesday is just this great season, and we're reminded of the beginning of Genesis when God made us out of dirt, right? You are dust, and to dust you shall return, right? We are reminded of our mortality. And so it's just this beautiful thing of just like, okay, I am mortal, which means I need to be better. You know,
My time is going to run out, and I want to end up in the right spot.
exactly. So, and then there's Meat Island Thursday, which we celebrate today. Not yet on the liturgical calendar, but I am pushing forward a petition.
Pope Francis has the opportunity to be the most based pope of all time.
As he's dying.
Let's not put that out there.
No, so
This will look really bad if he dies on Friday.
so pray for the Pope, but like I'm not saying I want
Yeah.
him to die. But like I've talked with a couple hospice nurses and they're like these are exactly the signs that we see when someone is in their final days and weeks.
It's really interesting because again, I don't care about your feelings on the Pope. The stories that I'm seeing about him during this time right now, it is very inspiring to me because they can't find him half the time. Because despite the fact that he is falling apart and he is one bad respiratory attack from not making it through, he is going to other patients in the hospital and praying with them and tending to them.
I did not know this. That's awesome.
Like Deke Mike was talking about today at MPB, and he's like, it's like again, that's it doesn't matter what your opinions on him is. You can't look me in the eye and tell me that's not a guy who cares about the people in his church.
Yeah. And so we have this beautiful witness from him. We have a beautiful witness that he is going to take care of us, that he loves us, right? But, this is also great, like, for some of your Lenten penance to pray for the Holy Father, to pray for his, for his continuous ongoing conversion towards Christ, because we all should be moving closer to Christ and having this ongoing conversion. And to pray for his health, right? And to pray that the Lord's will be done. He will provide some form of healing one way or another, and it's just about getting out of the way. But yeah, no, Meat Island Thursday, the first Thursday of Lent, between Ash Wednesday and the first Friday. Meat Island.
I remember at Franciscan. Do you remember the infamous Nug Run?
Oh yeah, the midnight Nug Run.
We go to that poor McDonald's and like between or like counting off everyone. We need 10, 20 piece nugs. And we start listing off sauce like stop. Just we're gonna give you a lot of sauce. And we're sitting in the drive-thru like it's 12:15, we're dying, we're like, come on. They just give us this massive bag of nugs. We take it back to Louis Liz. It's quiet hours, but none of us care. We go up to the second floor balcony, we just start ripping off the box, and we're like, praise the Lord that McDonald's is 24 hours.
Well, because at the time, I think that year we did do no food.
I was like no food. Like I think I did my skinny person fast, but yeah, like most of the guys in Fisher were like just water and coffee today.
Yeah, which is great. But yeah, I remember before I went to Franciscan, there was this diner called the Peacock, not far from the campus I was at, and we went there on midnight of Ash Wednesday, going into the first Thursday. It was great. had a fun time. We, 24-hour diner, had steak and eggs. I was like, okay.
Your usual
And that's the
breakfast.
kind of fun thing. What?
Your usual breakfast.
Yeah. But that's the kind of fun thing that, like, oh, this would be great to have as, like, a part of a young adult community, right?
Hmm.
You know, youth group on Wednesday night. Anybody who's staying up, we're gonna go to the diner afterwards. At midnight. These kind of fun things. But now that we're in our mid to late 20s, we're like, oh, my sciatica's acting up. Uh, my plantar fasciitis. I
Oh,
can't go.
the kids today were trying to say, Mr. Kirk, can we turn off the lights and put on the Rear has like the Christmas lights like you have? And I was like, guys, if we turn off the overhead lights, I am passing out in this chair. So they're staying on. I'm sorry you don't like the way you look in the fluorescent lighting, but I need this because the other sub did fall asleep.
And so all of that being said, this is where we find ourselves at the first week of Lent. Like tomorrow will be the first Friday. I'm excited because one of my favorite Lenten traditions is Stations of the Cross on Fridays. Without fail, my family went to Stations of the Cross pretty much every Friday in Lent. And like, I don't know, for something like coming out of COVID, I got the privilege and honor to help film our Stations of the Cross and live stream it for the parish I was working at. And that was one of the highlights of that job because just reading through the prayers of Stations of the Cross, I just got this beautiful like reminder of Christ's love for me and how much he did for me. And that's just really stuck with me. So even this year for Lent, I'm trying to pray one of the stations each day, right? And so like I have a book. It has a bunch of different kinds of Stations of the Cross.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and so like there's 14 different kinds of Stations of the Cross. So I can pray 14 different ways of the Stations of the Cross over the whole Lent, just doing one station at a time. And then on Fridays going and celebrating Stations of the Cross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
But
for
yeah,
us, like fish fry was always a big deal, especially not just because we want fish fry, we're Midwestern. Like the nights that they were our charter organization for scouts, that was like our way of giving back. So we would like pretty much every Friday, like I think usually 3 or 4 Fridays is during Lent. We were there. We were there half hour before it started. We were there a half hour till it like after it ended, like bussing tables, bringing food, cleaning, whatever they needed, and that was like act of service for us, just like trying to give back to the people who are helping us out. So and plus we got a free meal out of it, which is never a bad deal.
right. And so this is where we find ourselves in the first week of Lent. Do you have any favorite Lenten traditions, Andrew? Outside of the fish fries?
Lenten traditions. I mean, this is like you mentioned, technically not Lent, but Easter Vigil was always our thing. Like once my mom entered the church, we stopped going to Easter Mass. We always went to Easter Vigil Mass. Like that was our big thing. And it just kind of stuck with us. Like we're going to Easter Vigil every year now. This thing I look forward to. Again, not technically Lent, but that's like a tradition for us. Is like making sure for that. I don't think we have anything specific outside of that. My mom giving up pop for Lent is kind of a tradition because she always does it. She does other things too now, but like when she first started, she's like, "I'm giving up pop," and then we kind of gave her crap for it because it didn't really change right afterwards. She still does it pretty regularly, but it is definitely not like she has actually like really gotten better about like just not drinking pop because it's healthier for her. But yeah, that's like a
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. I wish we brought back some more of the older traditions, like the burying of the Alleluia. Have you heard about this one?
Oh, I don't say that during Lent. I don't know that's a tradition, but
Yes. They used to bury the banner that had the word written on it, and you were supposed to throw in the things that you were giving up for Lent too. Like people would throw in like wrapped sweets and cans of Coke and stuff like that, and then bury it. And so on Easter Sunday, you would unbury it.
yeah, it's
Like that's
just
pretty cool.
that's kind of the thing. Like I do wish we had more physical things that we did to help
More weird
us.
Catholic things.
Just weird Catholic things. Vatican II
And
Vatican II was good. It was good. Don't get me wrong. It kind of whitewashed us a little bit in some areas. Kind of smoothed over too many of the cracks that made us fun and weird.
well, Andrew, we could bring them back.
We have the technology. We can rebuild
But
them. We have the technology. We can rebuild them.
yes. So what are you doing this year for Lent then?
We're at the going deeper part of our episode.
I guess so.
Like I said, this year I'm not fasting. Just because I don't fast well, so I'm gonna play to my strengths here a little bit. But I'm focusing on improving myself, body, mind, and soul. The idea being that I'm being more intentional about doing these positive things. So by doing them, I'm not spending as much time doing negative things for me. So for body, I'm sticking to a pretty strict workout routine. I'm gonna really stick with it this month. I kind of fallen away for the past couple of weeks from my usual workouts. So I'm like, all right, 3 days a week, whether it's at home, Planet Fitness, whatever. I'm gonna be consistent, minimum half hour, 3 days a week, like solid workout. So like focusing on my mind. I'm setting the standard at 1. I'm shooting for 2 nonfiction books by the end of Lent. Something to, increase my mind. I'm already taking class. Like, I'm not saying like, I'm going to do religious books because I'm already reading stuff for my classes. So I want to do something like outside of that, nonfiction to increase my mind. And then spiritually, I have a couple devotionals on my, I know you're talking about, just add another devotional, but like, I want to pick I have a couple devotionals on my shelf that I'm still sorting through which one I'm going to go through. But it's like, I want to be very intentional with setting aside 15 minutes a day for prayer, whether it's with that devotional or just adoration or whatever, but like being really intentional because, I've said it 1,000 times on here in real life. Just because I work for the church does not mean I set aside time to pray. I'm actually almost worse at it now.
It's nigh impossible to actually pray well while working for the church.
Yeah, despite the fact that the Eucharist is upstairs from my office. I never make the time. So I'm trying to be really intentional about that 15 minutes.
And that's the thing, Andrew. It's about making the time because the time exists.
Exactly.
We just have to be willing to sacrifice other things, whether it's video games or making elaborate meals or watching TV or scrolling on social media. Like, we all have time for it, and that's something that's like.
I like you specifically call that like the 4 or 5 things that I do the most that take up my time.
I think those are the 4 or 5 things that I would say take up the most time for me too.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just like, okay.
But yeah, that's my fasting that I'm doing. Prayer is part of that, and then almsgiving. We're actually doing a really a charity that the Knights and the high school are working with, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, and on next Saturday, actually, not this coming, but the next one, we're building beds for children in the county that don't have a bed. Like, we raised a ton of money, and we're getting together for like 6 hours on a Saturday, and like we're building these beds and we're shipping them out. Like, we're delivering them to people. So it's kind of like it's not quite like the personal interaction necessarily that we're looking for, but it's still like I'm getting my hands involved, not just writing a check. It's how can I use my time and talent to give back to people who need it more than I do. So that's my almsgiving for Lent.
Yeah. So I'm doing our desert challenge, which has a list of different things. So I'll read a couple of them off. So I'm trying to pray daily for 20 to 60 minutes. So what does that look like for me? I have this great little book. So on top of like praying in station, I like to read books when I pray. Mm-hmm. I know I don't read a ton of books. People will be like, Josh, you read books. But so one of the things I'm doing is I'm reading through this book called Lenten Healing, which is a 40-day devotional. It's really good. It's based on Dr. Bob Schucht's Be Healed program about inner healing. And so it's maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And it is a great way for me to start my prayer. I'm trying to incorporate like small aspects of Liturgy of the Hours, whether it's just Magnificat and the prayer of benediction from the Canticle of Zechariah, the Canticle of Mary, the Canticle of Simeon. I'm also trying to pray one of the stations every day and finding time for like a daily rosary. All of this is like, okay, that seems like a lot of devotional prayer. And I'm like, yes, when I'm praying the Stations of the Cross, I'm taking time to be silent and to listen.
Hmm.
Right? It's very hard to do silent prayer without some content to meditate upon.
Yeah, you usually want like a
Um,
little primer for that silence.
yeah, and so something to look forward to is maybe a quick catechesis on how to pray and how to meditate. Um, but another thing I'm doing, and I mean I already do this pretty much, is attend an extra mass each week. Um, so I'm trying to make it to mass daily. It's questionable, but right now I go to mass pretty much every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Trying to make it day to Friday to either Monday or Friday or Saturday.
Okay.
Kind of getting more mass time in. Um, Going to confession once a month, right? Maybe more frequently than that. Still trying to find a regular confessor up here. So, fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays. So I'm shooting for not eating a full meal until 6 p.m.
I dig it.
Meatless meals on that case too. So meatless Wednesdays and Fridays.
Okay.
Um, no soda or sweet drinks. So water, milk, black coffee, black tea. I'm including things like protein shakes. So I'm allowing myself to do protein shakes
That makes
or
sense.
like sparkling water.
How does alcohol fit
Um,
in there?
doesn't say no alcohol.
Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation.
Anything in my trying to get up at my first alarm. With that being said, I have set my alarm for 5:30
You're
a.m.
making me seem like I'm doing the easiest Lent ever.
I'm trying to get up at my first alarm. My first alarm is scheduled for 5:30 a.m.
Psycho.
No social, no social media. This is the big one for me.
Outside of
I,
this.
I can do this without social media on my phone. So what I did is I said no social media on my phone.
Okay.
I'm not going to scroll at work. I'm not going to scroll on my. The big thing is I'm trying to limit mindless scrolling.
Yeah.
And that includes things like YouTube, mindless YouTube scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
So no TVs, movies, or televised sports unless with others for a specific purpose. So yeah. I don't really play a ton of video games anymore, but I'm trying to limit it to 1 hour video games a day if I do play video games. Because I know if I'm going to play a video game, I'm going to sit there for a few hours. I'm like, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other big thing is, exercising 3 to 5 days a week, and then writing a letter a day to a family member or friend to send them in the mail. So I got this thing where it's different prompts for each day of Lent. So we can compile all of these resources and put them into a document on our link tree. So that way you can see, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But with all that being said, that's what I'm doing for Lent. So it's very fun. I like Lent.
Like I said, it's my least favorite time of the year. It's Deacon Mike equated to like, look, it's like we got that check engine light on our car, and we always say, I don't have time, I'm busy. But if we don't go get that checked out, it's gonna cause more problems later. So we gotta go get that checked out, and Lent's our time to go check out the check engine light. Figure out what's holding us back from getting closer to God this year. So
Sin. Sin is what's holding us back.
what specific sin?
I'm not telling you that. You're not my pastor.
Good. I don't want to hear it. But
Uh-huh. You want to hear it. You just want to admit it.
as I told the students while I was working in the musical, the less I know about your personal lives, the better I live.
All right, man.
No, we hit
Been
just over an hour.
this has been fun.
You're right.
Yeah, this has been fun. This was an interesting. We kind of bounced all over the place.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of Lent. It gets you to go deeper just by its very nature, and that's what we're all about here at Duke and Altum. Cast out in the deep.
That's not what God can do for you. Oh wait, no, that's not right.
All right, Kennedy. Nothing bad ever happened to the
Alright,
Kennedys.
Nothing bad ever happened
To the Kennedys. All right. With that, thank you all for joining us. Like I said, I know this is normally our doing stuff episode. Don't worry, we already recorded that. That is going to be edited. So next time we ask the question, what if we
made a meal?
cooked something, made a romantic dinner, something along those lines. But yeah, next episode we delve into cooking.
Cooked? What if we cooked, Andrew?
What if we cooked? So with that, thank you guys for joining us. Hope you enjoyed. We'll be praying for you guys, all 5 listeners of ours, that you have a successful Lent like we do. We ask that you pray for us, and we'll see you next time.